Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
All right, fantastic. Mary June Miller, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. This is interesting because we spend a lot of time together as friends, but there's always Patrick and Mariana, and we're always hanging out. Like, this is a different situation for us, and I'm happy to have you on. Thank you.
Super fun, yeah.
You did say you were a little nervous about coming on the podcast, which I took as a little bit of an offense, to be honest with you.
Well,
what's up with that?
Not your podcast. I'm not nervous to come on to your podcast. I just have never done, well, I know you do the long form sort of podcasts. And I enjoy, for me, actually talking is thinking. And I was just actually talking about this to Patrick because he can think.
Yep.
And actually set up ideas and debate them in his head.
Yep.
I'm not as good at that. So I often talk, and then actually maybe a month later, what I thought I knew or thought changes because as I talk, I think.
Yes.
And so this sort of thing makes me go, what if I say something that in a month, I'm like, oh my, that's totally not what I think about anything.
Well, so that used to be more acceptable than it is now. Because now when you say something and then 5 years goes by and that pops up on the internet somehow and you don't think the same and it's maybe wrong, you get roasted for that stuff. And you might have changed your opinion 4 years and 11 months ago and you said it 5 years ago and people lose their jobs from that. It's weird now because what you say sticks and you might have changed your entire opinion on that thing and it just doesn't morph. So,
and I don't know that it's all negative. Well, yes, and it does remind us the power of our words.
Right.
But you're right. It is unfortunate because I think there is this silencing that happens that maybe is hurtful as well, or doesn't serve us well. Like I think you and I both grew up in the same sort of culture, and grew up in a culture that accepted the purity culture a lot. And you see, leaders of that, like Joshua Harris, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, who now is kind of recanting everything he said, and is being kind of crucified for that. When he himself is also going nix everything I said.
Yeah. Well, I think it's unfortunate when people don't give credit for someone's mind and opinion to have been changed over time based on new information and all of this, because that's just life.
Yeah.
To your point, though, it is kind of good to have those checks in time, as long as we can be objective and reasonable when we look back on those points in time that we said something that we may or may not still agree with. And here's why I said it then, and here's why I think it's wrong now. And if that's the conversation we can have, it's actually cool to have those kind of checkpoints in time. But it just seems like the willingness of people to give other people the benefit of the doubt is sort of mostly gone.
Yes.
And to allow people a space to be wrong is mostly gone. If you're wrong a little bit, we get to kick you out, And
we do have so many more people hearing what we are thinking than we did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I could have a conversation, in around my table with you and Mariana and Patrick, and the four of us would know that evening what I felt about something. And now we have platforms like podcasts and social media where you say something and you don't have to think much about it. You can just put it out there and the whole world can hear.
Yeah.
So there is much more accountability. And I guess part of that comes with a lot more critiquing as well.
Yeah. And rightfully so.
Because we're going to go Enneagram at all. I don't know, but I'm a 4-wing 3. So my performance bristles a little bit because I'm like, I don't want to offend too many people.
Right.
So that's my process to work through. But that's where the nervousness is coming from, not because it's your podcast.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, well, thank you for being on the podcast. What is 4 on the Enneagram?
4 is an individualist, or typically known as a creative, somebody who, it's almost easier to know some of the negative things about the numbers than it is the positive. So a 4 often feels very much like they are different than the rest, often believe they're flawed in some eternal way, different than the rest, but often empaths, creatives, very like I'm the only one that might feel or think this way, very individualist. And then the 3 would be the performer. So they often fight a little bit because the performer tries to keep people happy. And then the 4 wants to be. The 4 has this weird, like, I want to be different than everybody else, but I also feel like it's my curse that I'm different than everybody else.
Yeah. But doesn't everyone feel that a little bit? Because I feel that. I don't think I'm 4 in the Enneagram, but I really resonate with that.
Maybe. I mean, I really resonate with it. And it was actually a podcast I listened to that, because it took me a long time to actually kind of figure out my number, which happens to be one of the typical things for a 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
that's an indication you might be a 4.
Yeah.
You can't figure out what you are on the Enneagram.
So maybe you are more 4 than you think. But I listened to this podcast and really resonated with that. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I feel like she read my mail a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like it didn't take me long at all to figure out what I was on the Enneagram. I was a 3, although I don't know if it changes over time or, how that works. Because I feel like with DISC, that depends on what season of life, because I've taken it a couple of times, and it's been mostly consistent, but depending on the season of life, it has changed just a little bit. So I don't know if the same is true for Enneagram. I'd like to go back and brush up on the Enneagram because it's been a couple of years since I've
there's
really
all the
looked
lines
into it.
Too, yeah. So, I mean, they all mean something, and I think you're right. I think seasons of life, as you grow, things you learn about yourself, all of that definitely play into it.
Yes.
But it's been helpful for me.
Fantastic. So one thing that you have been doing that we haven't got a chance to talk about as friends yet is you've really gotten into CrossFit.
I have.
I've heard from Patrick. You're even coaching now.
I am.
What are you working out every day? How often are you coaching? How's it going?
So I try to be in our gym 5 to 6 days a week. I coach 3 days a week, 3 1-hour, 45-minute classes. 45 minutes to an hour. The class is actually 45 minutes. It's a boot camp style class. So it's actually kind of our entry class in our gym for maybe people that might be intimidated with the barbell movements. So my class is more boot camp style, and we only use dumbbells and kettlebells. So we never pick up a barbell in my class. But we use the rig, and we use the bikes and the rowers and all of the same other equipment, just instead of barbell. Like today, the workout was the exact same because we didn't do a barbell movement in the actual CrossFit class. Okay. What we're calling Invigor class could be the same. So that's been super fulfilling for me. It's just to have people come in, who may not have worked out ever or never stepped foot in a gym, and to have them be there consistently and see them grow, and much more fulfilling than I expected, for sure. But also just passionate about helping people become better versions of themselves by doing small, consistent movements. But I try to be in there working out as well, 5 to 6 days a week.
Yes. What is that class called again?
The class I coach is Invigor. It's called Invigor 45. Yeah.
Okay. So is Invigor and 45, is that because it's 45 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a 45-minute class, not a 1-hour class like a typical CrossFit class. Is it an introduction to CrossFit? Is it like a training of the movements to get into CrossFit? Or is it people might come to Invigor and just not move into a traditional CrossFit workout?
Correct. It's not a foundations class, which I think a lot of CrossFit...
It's not?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It could be used as that. We actually, right now in our gym, don't have a current foundations class. That's something we're working on. We're still a very young gym. So it could definitely be used as that, but people can come in, anybody can come to my class if they are a CrossFit member. But you can also buy just the Invigor 45 membership. So people can use my class as their only class that they come to, which is what most of the people in my class do, actually, is they only use my class.
Sure.
And then there's other members who are like, oh, the 11 o'clock class fits my schedule today, and they'll pop in other CrossFit members, especially on a day like today where it's like I'm doing the exact same thing I would any other class I jump into. So you can buy just the Invigor 45 membership.
Okay.
And be in that class. But it does. I mean, because it's tucked in between 2 other classes in our gym, they start to see people come in or either come in after them or leave just before them. And I think, subconsciously it's like, oh, those people look just like me.
100%.
And it does introduce them or give them the courage to at least go, I think I could do that.
I totally agree. And I like, from a business model, I like the idea. I've not heard of it at CrossFit before. And just to be clear, it is a trademark CrossFit gym that you're at,
yes,
right?
We are a CrossFit affiliate.
Okay. It's not a knockoff, which I guess no knock on the knockoff. But
Yeah. No, like
it's an actual CrossFit gym.
Yes, it is an affiliate.
Yeah. And so one of the misconceptions that I'm running into a lot now, I think it's because I'm trying to get more people into CrossFit potentially. Or maybe it's finally hitting mainstream enough that you're starting to have more discussions with people, which is, that's great that you go to CrossFit, but I'm not an elite athlete. Mm-hmm. And that is, I'm not a CrossFitter. It's like, that is a very big misconception, because you said people in your class see other people coming into a regular quote unquote CrossFit class where you're going to use the barbell sometime. It's an hour long and so forth. I mean, look, I have gone to CrossFit when I didn't know any of the movements, when I was fat, not necessarily overweight, because when I am not fit, actually, I don't tend to put on weight. I just get a gut, and I'm heavier now than I was 6 months ago when I started hitting this hard. But still out of shape, get sore very quickly, get winded very quickly. I mean, you have people of all ages, you have people of all weights, all of that. Like, you have people that are, have been doing CrossFit for years, and they're good, and their body shows it, and they're healthy, and then you have people that aren't. So anyhow, I feel like there's this misconception out there with CrossFit that it's sort of like for the CrossFitters or the elite athletes, and it's really not. It's a good way to get fit, in my opinion.
It is and I'm a great example of that. Like, I only started CrossFit when we moved to Nashville 4 years ago. And I was terrified of it. A lot
of people are.
And because of that misconception, it's like, I either have, which I don't even understand how we think the elite athletes got there. Like, they had to start somewhere,
Yes.
You take it apart, you start to understand, well, they actually had to start somewhere. And most CrossFit gyms will have either a foundations class, like an onboarding class, or are aware that with a new person, you're going to have to help them scale. And there's a scale for every single CrossFit movement.
You can't do toes to bar, no problem. Do like an L sit-up, or not a sit-up, but like do L sits or whatever. Like, pull your legs up. Can't do that, just pull your knees up. Can't do that, what's a candlestick?
A candlestick is like when you're laying on your back on the ground and holding something behind your head. And again, just lifting your legs up as high as you can.
Yes.
Potentially all the way up to whatever's behind your head.
Yes. And that's an important point, is like, people need to realize, you're going to come in and there's going to be a workout, and it's going to be structured. And if you can't do it, there's a scale for everything.
Every
if
movement.
You can't run, walk.
Or bike.
Get on the bike. Totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time someone in our class is injured anyway. We have this little thing called L5 Fitness. Shout out to L5 Fitness. We branded it ourselves 2 weeks ago because there's like 3 of us that had bad backs.
Oh, it's actually within the gym, your L5 Fitness?
Yeah, it's in the gym. It's like we're all there at the 11:30 class because that's just the class you go to. And that's the fun thing about CrossFit is you get to not only go to the gym, but then you have the class. And it's like you start to see the same people every day.
It's a community. It really is a community for a lot of people.
There's 3 of us back in the back corner. We all had bad backs, and apparently L5 is one of the vertebrae, and one of the guys who's always cracking up something funny, like he named us L5 Fitness, and then we all had then for the next week we kept having these sayings, which I think we annoyed people, but it's like, when your back's on the mend, don't bend, all this but thankfully I'm out of L5 Fitness now. I'm back in the normal
graduated out?
I graduated out. So what I actually kind of like what your gym's doing from a business model standpoint, because I feel like you can capture more people. And then what I don't like about it is it reinforces a stereotype that CrossFit's not for everyone. Have you bumped into that yet? You know what I mean? Like, what's it saying by having another class?
Yeah. Well, I haven't even heard that at all. I've only heard the opposite from people coming in, is like, oh, I think this would be a great place for from the girls that are there. Oh, I think this would be a great place for my husband because at our gym, now this isn't true of every gym. I do believe this is kind of a culture that maybe the owners bring on. But at our gym, that's been really good where ego stays at the door.
Yeah.
Like injury happens a lot quicker if you bring ego in and just try to be stupid.
Yeah. Yep.
Which again is a big misconception with CrossFit is, injuries happen. So many injuries happen. And injuries do happen, but I think injuries happen in other gyms as well.
For sure.
So, but in our little class, I hear the girls say, I think actually I could convince my husband to come in here because he could come in. It wouldn't be the barbells. He could see the other people and realize that, again, like they're normal people. They're not just all, the rich Fronings of the world. They're parents. They're just people wanting to be healthy. And in our gym, the community is mostly, I'd say, 30s, 40s, even all the way up to 50, 60. So we do have a small community of younger, like 20-year-olds, high schoolers even.
Oh, cool.
But it is mostly that 30s, 40s, just family people wanting to be fit and healthy.
I think that must be the CrossFit demographic because this is the third CrossFit gym I've been a part of. I was part of CrossFit Mount Juliet and CrossFit BNA. And also those two, and then CrossFit Forte where I go now, none of those places had what I have heard of in the past, like CrossFit snobbery or elitism, or it's like, you're not good enough to be here. I'm starting to wonder if that's, I'm starting to wonder where that exists, honestly, because every CrossFit gym that I've talked with someone about, everyone, they're like, no, that's not in our gym. Although I have heard, I may not have heard people say like it exists elsewhere, but I mean, at what point is this? No, it doesn't exist here. It exists elsewhere. At what point is this a myth? Yeah. It's like, where is this?
Maybe it is your perception of it. Like, I think once you're courageous enough, like I said, I was terrified. I was one of them. Once I was courageous enough to actually be vulnerable enough to step inside the CrossFit gym, everybody there was like welcoming and come in. And there was no like, oh, look, she can't do that. Or, oh, wow, she's really new at all. It was just total support.
Yep.
From day one, and has really been, for me, over the past 2 years, therapy. Like, it's been my place to face my darkness. Like, it's been where I've left tears on the floor. It's just been that place. So it's been that for me, and a place of healing, which again says a lot about the community I'm surrounded with there.
Yes.
It wouldn't be that if I wouldn't feel safe there.
Yes, 100%. By the way, when did your gym start? You said it was a new gym.
It was January of 2019. So we're just looking at almost 2 years now.
Okay, wow. Okay. Well, thankfully that gym's still open because it was a new gym and then COVID hit. Yes. You had to shut down for a period of time.
Yeah, we were out for, it felt like forever, but this whole year feels like forever.
Yeah, it does.
I think we were forced to close in March, like kind of like everybody else. And then we opened up the beginning of June.
Okay.
So
there is something about the CrossFit workout. It's an hour-long, high intensity, constantly varied functional movements. Something about, and I don't know kind of the cadence of your gym, but mostly we do like warm-ups, 10 minutes or so, and then like a strength portion that could be 10, 15, 20 minutes, short break, and then the workout. And that, and some gyms, move that around a little bit, but something about the CrossFit workout works. Like it is effective. The facing your fears, how did CrossFit help you with that?
Well, I had recognized it back before I started with CrossFit. I actually started with a personal trainer again, just to try to get over the fear of what do I do in a gym? Like, I don't know what these machines mean. And I remember feeling that as well. Like, wow, when I get to this place of feeling like I can't go on, I never was in I was never an athlete, as I never had the opportunity to be an athlete in high school. And so I never had that place where I pushed myself to that degree. And so it was some of that. It's like when you think you can't go on and then you go on.
Yeah.
But even just more recently, it's that like those voices in your head, like, oh, you're really not an athlete. Oh, you're really not strong, or you suck at this. Like, and then it's just your body doing more than what you thought possible. And just with the past 2 years that Patrick and I have walked through, even just some of that, like you'd be working out and something would trigger that you just didn't even know was going to trigger. And you were able, and I was able to just face that and go, no, we're going to keep moving. This workout's not over until it's over. We're going to give it what we got as long as we can. And for the first time, just kind of getting into that pain cave, finding that place and working through it in my head. So, other people may be able to find other things to get them there. I think they can. For me, it was the gym. It was CrossFit. And there's certain workouts. There was one workout in particular, the first time that I literally in a break, because sometimes there's breaks that are kind of built into the workout that you have, like a 5-minute break or whatever. I walked over into this we have like a little waiting area that's right there in the gym. It's all open, but there's a carpet there. And I just like kind of child posed on the carpet and just wept, like just bawled. And everybody, around was like, is she okay? What's going on? And so now every time that workout, because it was like a, why is my mind going blank on what they call like the CrossFit benchmark? It was like a benchmark. It was one that comes up, every once in a while. It had a name on it. I don't even remember the name of it.
Yep.
Some girl's name. Every time it comes up, if the coach is one that was there at that time, I'm like, I think MJ remembers his workout.
No way.
Because that was the day MJ lost it, like just on the ground.
You cried after the workout, you said?
No,
or
it was
during?
like, it was in like the break that was built in. So I had to get back up and get back to it.
Gotcha.
But it was like the break that was built in. So it was maybe like an AMRAP, like a 5-minute AMRAP that had a 5-minute break, and then it was another 5-minute AMRAP.
Okay.
So it was in one of those breaks.
Gotcha.
Where I had time to catch my breath, but I hit this place. And then I got back up and finished. And I don't even remember exactly what it was about, but I just remember it was that, like, I got back up and finished and felt fantastic afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I faced something that I needed to face.
Yeah. I've not seen too many people at our gym cry halfway through a workout. Was that because something was like bottled up and CrossFit released it? Or was that, dang, this is freaking hard. I don't know if I can do it. Yes, I can do it. And there was just an emotion to that.
I think it was just this, there was definitely some sort of emotion that was built up, but I think whatever it was that triggered me took me to that really dark place where it was like, I get to face whatever it is I'm facing while I'm working out. It was this mental toughness that I didn't know I had, that I got to have, combined with this physical fatigue. It's like, I get to be like, I have to work physically when I'm so fatigued and have this mental demon of sorts, going on up here. And I never thought I could do that. Like, I just never had that opportunity. I think, I mean, they say, like, I have sons in football and they talk about that. It's like, wow, the workout today was really, really hard. I didn't think I could ever do this. And then I did it. So there was some of that in there as well, but it's kind of hard to know exactly what all is going on. It's, psychologically and physically, and how your body is releasing all of those things when you're in that moment. But it's that breakdown of mental breakdown, physical breakdown at the same time. And you're getting stronger physically because you're in there working out, but you're also mentally getting stronger. Like they go together. We're just, we're one unit and we're so connected.
Yes.
And for me, the CrossFit workouts, the way they're written, the way that they use, like, it's a functional fitness, but it does push me to this place because you get to push as hard as you want. Like we talked about, there's scales for everything.
Including that way. Including making it real hard.
Yeah. So you can always, no matter how strong you get, you're still going to get a really good workout.
Yes.
You're going to sweat buckets because you're going to just push yourself harder, throw on some more weight, go a little harder on the bike, whatever it is. Like the assault bike is just wicked because it's like, the stronger you get, the harder you go, the more you the more you sweat, the longer it feels like it lasts. So it's an amazing workout for me because it doesn't matter how strong it is. It doesn't matter what kind of athlete you are, brand new, which my father-in-law just started CrossFit for the first time. He actually lost over 100 pounds this year.
I saw that.
So amazing. And he started at the local CrossFit gym.
No way.
Was kind of worried. Like he was like, is there anything I can do? And went in there and again was pleasantly surprised. Like, yes, there's a lot I can do for where I'm at. But then you've got the elite athletes in there throwing stuff around and everybody's getting a great workout. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. You can have a class with your father-in-law, who's what, in his 50s, 60s?
60s, 64,
in his 60s, just lost 100 pounds, which means he probably had 100 pounds to lose, or at least he thought he did. And now he's going to go to the gym, first-time CrossFitter, and you're in the same class as like someone who could go to like regionals or something like that. And it still works. Like it's actually pretty amazing that can be designed that way.
Yeah.
I think CrossFit is a unique intersection of listening to your body and quieting your inner bitch, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a great way to describe it.
You still do need to listen to your body. Like that's a thing. And then also you just need to tell your body to like press on, like shut up and press on. Because I was hearing something about this recently. I forget the science, but basically our brain tells us to shut down way, 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 way before we really need to.
It self-protects that way.
Yeah, it does. And so pretty much every day in CrossFit, in the class, at some point throughout the workout, there's going to be this trigger in your mind, like, should you slow down now? Should you pause now? Is there any excuse you can come up with to leave this class early? Those types of things. And you just have to press through. Like half the time, all you do is you just keep moving.
So have you ever left the class early?
So I have left class early because I needed to.
Yeah, like
a couple of times. Schedule.
Yes, yeah.
There's only one workout that I didn't finish, and it happened this summer in my buddy's garage, and it was a Froning workout, and it was awful, and I didn't finish it, and it was the closest I'd come to throwing up. I've never thrown up at a CrossFit. I've had buddies that have, but I've never thrown up, and I don't want to, and I don't need to prove anything. You know what I mean? Even though I kind of, when you're in the moment, you sort of want to. But this warehouse was hot, and there was 3 or 4 of us, and the Froning workouts, I mean, that's the only one I have done directly because our gym owner, Evan Beach, writes his own workouts.
Oh, wow.
Which, by the way, he thinks, so we still do like the benchmark workouts and everything, and occasionally we do like a CrossFit workout, but I think he takes some amount of personal pride in writing his own workouts because he views it as writing a song, which I kind of like that way of looking at it. I love it. Some workouts are hit songs and others aren't. And the Froning one, though, it was a crud ton of toes to bar mixed with push-ups. And by the time I got that done, I was almost throwing up, and I was like, my mind was just not in a good spot. And then whatever was supposed to come next, I just laid on the floor and let them finish it.
Yeah. And for
for
your listeners, toes to bar, they can just YouTube the toes to bar and they'll understand. Like I feel like you only got so many toes to bar in you. Like you can only do so many.
Gone,
and
they're
when they're
totally
gone, they're just, you can scale, but they're gone when they're gone.
Are you good at toes to bar?
No, I wouldn't say I'm good at them. We had them today, actually, and I was able to do RX today, which, again, for your listeners, that means as prescribed or as written. But there was only 20 per round. So, and you went, it was...
But still, how many rounds?
It was an AMRAP 20 minutes. So you did it wasn't just toes to bar. So there was a couple movements. That you worked through, and when you finished, you started over, and you just did that for 20 minutes.
How many times roughly did you cycle through on that, though?
So the workout today, if you got through 2, that was fantastic. I got through about 1.5, maybe.
Okay. So total, most people weren't doing more than 40 toes to bar.
Right.
20 and 20.
Yeah.
And I think, toes to bar is one of those that, I don't know if anyone's... I don't know. There's probably people out there that are superb at them. I'm not superb at them, but something about my body size and shape and everything. Usually I do better than if there's toes to bar mixed in.
Okay.
We had toes to bar as well too.
Yeah.
Where I start to drop off, I'm going to do like 15 at a time. I can do that, cycled in with some other movements about, 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And then it starts to, like you said, when toes to bar are gone, they are gone.
Yeah.
And you're just hanging from that bar, just trying to do singles, and it takes forever.
Or then you go to knee ups or whatever you have to do. So have you ever tried to make, to see if you could go have a bigger amount at the end, but break it up into 5s or 10s instead of 15s? Yeah.
So 15 is sort of, I settled on, if I'm going to do a large amount of toes to bar, doing 20 at a time is a little bit much. Doing 10 at a time is a little bit less. So for me, doing 15 and then coming off the bar and giving some break either by just resting or by doing some other movements and coming back, that's kind of the sweet spot for me.
Yeah. That's
so
amazing.
I could do 10. It's just, I think 15 sort of works.
Yeah.
So
for a bigger rep amount.
What are some of your favorite movements in CrossFit?
I love the deadlift. So deadlift is probably my strongest barbell movement, which is very, pick it up and, pick it up from the ground.
Yeah.
And back squats are probably my 2 favorite. I'm learning to like the clean. Anything overhead is still, I've had shoulder issues. And so anything overhead just feels so frustrating because I can't go very heavy. And so I'm focused more on the movement and making sure I'm getting the movement before I add a lot of weight.
Yep.
But double unders, I cannot stand. If we're talking about ones I cannot stand.
Can you do them?
I can't have learned how to string them together well.
I haven't either.
So that's something that's my goal actually for this year is to get, to be able to do that because it's such a core workout. You think it's a jump rope. Come on, you should be able to jump rope, but it's so difficult for me.
Yep.
And then I love pull-ups. So
me too.
Toes to bar I'm learning to like them. My grip gives out so quickly. My grip actually gives out before I feel like my muscles give out on my toes to bar. Like it's hard for me to hold. Like I have to actually work on my grip. And I know that's a thing. It's like you really have to actually strengthen your grip.
Yep.
So I enjoy them when I can do them. It's just so frustrating once they go. They just go for me. I have just my grip goes.
Yep. I can't do the double unders and I can't do butterfly pull-ups.
Yeah,
can you do those?
No. I mean, I can string pull-ups together,
right?
But I've not been able to butterfly.
The butterfly
That's the shoulder mobility. Oh my word, that takes an insane amount of shoulder mobility.
Yeah. And just like the getting your momentum at the right place, your hips are actually a different place than when you would do regular pull-ups. And I haven't figured it out, but honestly, it looks easier. I think it would be something that would be beneficial because it kind of looks a little bit like cheating. Like, I mean, I know you're getting that chest up there, but still with the way the movement works, if you can get into that fluidity of it, it looks like it would be less taxing on your muscles than regular pull-ups.
And, when people are really good at that sort of a movement, and even toes to bar, I mean, I was in there today with a guy who doesn't do any of the kip up. Like he just does straight leg toes to bar. And because of his insane core strength, that feels easy to him, it's really hard. Like that's really hard. But when people do those movements well, it makes me feel like I can do them. Oh, that looks so incredibly easy.
Yeah.
Let me get on here. And then I feel like I weigh like lead or something.
Yes.
But I do agree. The butterfly movement feels like once you have that, it would make cycling through that.
It really does.
Well, and kind of like cycling the barbell. Once you've learned how to cycle the barbell, then in workouts, when you've got like a ton of like snatches or something like that, once you learn how to cycle the barbell, that really cuts your time down so much.
Yes.
Then if you have to like slowly bring it down and then reset and go back up.
Yes, I totally agree. And I just think that by your fruits, you shall know them type of a thing. And like when you compare people walking out of Planet Fitness to people walking out of CrossFit in general, there's a difference in fitness there, it seems to me. I mean, I've been told that Planet Fitness serves cookies from time to time. Maybe it was another one of those. No, it is.
Gyms, I think it's pizza too, like Fridays.
Seriously, pizza and gyms at a gym. This does not make any sense. And Evan, who owns CrossFit Forte, is about people's fitness. I mean, he's a fan of CrossFit and everything, but at the end of the day, it's not about becoming an elite CrossFit athlete. Although if that happens, that's fantastic. Right. It's about being fit, And so I think the proof's in the pudding a little bit. I really like the mix of having someone who either doesn't know the movements or is way overweight or whatever, mixed with someone who's just crushing it. I like that personally because I like to see the 2-3 guys in our class that are above my level, and not even to be weird, I like when we take our shirts off and work out, and I like to see their ripped bodies. Like that's motivating to me. If no one in the class is like better than I am, well, that's not motivating,
right.
And so I just wonder, like when you go to a gym and like you're the best, most fit person in the gym, like you're missing some level of motivation that you could have otherwise. I mean, seeing Evan hit toes to bar without his shirt off, like again, no homo here. I'm just saying, like he's freaking abs. He has freaking abs, and there is not much wasted fat on those abs, and it's great. And you know what? It's not like he's genetically predisposed to have awesome abs, and I can't get there. He eats different than I do. And so does Roach. Like they eat extremely clean, and they've been doing CrossFit for a long time. And that's what gets that.
Right.
And I want that.
Yes. And I think as well, like some people are much more motivated by like Lifetime Fitness, where you just go in, you put on your AirPods or you put on your headset, you have your own music and you do your own thing. Zero motivation for me.
No,
like
me too.
I go in there and look around for a while, and then I'll totally motivated by the same thing that you just talked about. It's like walking in and in some ways seeing an ideal. Yeah. And knowing that what I'm about to do or what I'm doing and what they're doing is what it took for that.
Exactly.
And a lot of CrossFit gyms are starting to also offer like nutrition coaching, which I think is fantastic as well, because like you said, somebody can come in totally overweight, never been exercising and start. And then as they become more motivated, go, well, what's something else I could do to tighten up my nutrition or health? And then they've got that they can offer. They already feel safe there. They're already trusting the people. They already kind of see what it is that they want. And now you can offer that. And our gym is just starting to offer that as well, which is really fun to see.
Nutrition?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do nutrition challenges, but we also have the owner of the gym also offers, like, you can get with him and he can help you build a template out.
Yep. I think it's a, sorry to cut you off, but it's a total domino effect, or the compound effect. At least for me it is. I mean, when I go by myself to work out, first of all, I'm not going to be doing any cardio. I mean, if I go, I'm going to be hitting the weights and I'm not going to be pushing that hard. I mean, I'll put heavy weights on, but that doesn't really get you anything. And if I do cardio, I'm not going to push myself. I mean, golly, half the time, the only reason I finish these workouts is because there's 15 other people around me that they're going to finish too. And no, I'm not going to be the one to quit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm just going to go along with the crowd here. But when you're by yourself, it's a good time to quit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I got a good workout. My heart rate is up and I've been in here and let's like talk about cardio just a little bit, because that is, even as a CrossFitter, that's something that people complain about. Like, we hate cardio when we're in there, right? It's
every
like,
CrossFitter hates to run.
Right.
Thank God. Because I do too.
I used to do is run. Like, that's how I started way
awful.
back. And now it's like, like, what? You want us to run 400 meters?
Yeah.
But to have that combined, like, I actually saw I used to run and that's all I did. I started CrossFit and I went and did like a 5K and my time was significantly better than it was when I had just been running. But again, because of the functional fitness, it's like you build yourself this muscle set and you work on cardio together. It's just a recipe for translating into so much other things in life. Like,
yes.
You go hiking with your teenagers and you're like, wow, I'm keeping up more than I did. Or moving or like everything, you just feel it translate into so much of life.
Yep.
Which I love.
100%. I had more time on my hands than normal this summer. And so one of the goals for the summer was to get physically fit again and get really fit. So I've been 5 days a week since April and it's been great. I'm going to keep doing 5 days a week, because then every weekday is the same and there's no difference.
Were you in the gym 5 days since April?
Yeah,
like they've been open since April?
No, they were shut down for a period of time. I forget when they open again. It didn't feel like they were shut down for too long.
Yeah.
But I asked Evan recently, like what I can do to go to the next step. And so a couple months ago, I started, doing protein after the workout, which I do, I think it's 50 grams of protein and a little bit of collagen. That's just good for your skin and your gut. And then I have creatine in there too. And there was a couple of times this summer where I went back to the gym twice in one day. But
so fun.
But yeah, it is fun. But Evan was like, "Man, you don't want to do that whole thing again. Like these workouts are not designed to do 2 times a day. Yeah. Like you can put a shoulder out or something, And
the recovery rest is actually as important as the work, and we hear that all the time.
And his comment was, "Look, you're on the right path. There's really nothing you need to do to go to the next level except keep coming back every day, push hard." And eat clean, and that'll get you where you want to go from there. And then this was his comment, which had to do with you kind of it trickling out into other areas of life. Which he was like, from there, just play with the kids more. Go on the walk, go hiking, like do those types of things to get your cardio up, playing with the kids and stuff. There's something about the combination of cardio and strength that I both enjoy and I think is effective at CrossFit as well.
I totally agree. And on those days where you feel really good, maybe you can have the second workout, if it's at home or if it's going back to the gym. But no, I agree. Like I've also felt on weeks where, I just came back from Florida yesterday, but so I was off more last week. I only worked out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I've been off since Thursday and walked in today and I was like, oh, I'm really going to pay for it. And actually had a better workout today than I expected. But I think my body may have been asking me to rest as well. So it's that listening to your body, knowing that rest is not wrong. Like we can become obsessed with like being in there every day and forget that the recovery is just as important. What we feed our body in recovery, how we rest, how we sleep. Sleep is so important if you're going to be working out like that. And then when you eat your macronutrients around your workout, eat your carbs around your workout, know when you should have your protein, know when you should have. So those are all things you can dial in, but don't have to be the first day you walk into the gym.
Yes,
but
that's
like
right.
you said, you're like, okay, I'm at this point where this is fun. I love this, but how can I dial in even more?
Exactly. Yeah. And I only started doing protein shakes and stuff after workout like a month and a half ago. I mean, and I've been doing CrossFit type workouts for a few years, off and on. I don't have lifters, like a certain type of shoe you wear to lift weights. I mean, it's just, you can just get started and start and then build it from there.
Yeah.
Mariana's going to start.
Go, Mariana.
Yeah. I just had this discussion.
So excited.
I was in a float tank on Thursday, which was timely because something happened on Tuesday. I think it was split jerks or something, and like my back and neck, it's weird. It doesn't happen often, but something just, I don't even think it was spine related. I think a muscle just got pulled or something. And so Candace Bruder, who was on the podcast, the episode hasn't released yet, but she owns Pure Sweat float studio.
I use the one in Cool Springs. Love it.
Oh, really?
Huge,
oh, cool. That's a franchise of hers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyhow, she was on the podcast and she gave me a free float. So thank you, Candace. And so I took full advantage of that, and it did help with the back. And one of the epiphanies in the float tank was that Mariana just needs to do CrossFit, because we've talked about it before. She's been doing yoga for a while, and she likes yoga. It fits her and everything. But this is about the time where she would be having another kid, and we've had 5 every 2 years. So now our last one is about 2. 2. And, we don't plan to have another kid, so you don't get pregnant again. Like, that's not what you do with belly fat now, So what else are we going to do?
This is your new baby, Mariana.
So she's been doing yoga and she loves it, and it's been great. I mean, she's fit, but she wanted to get more fit and stuff. And so she's started to mix in a little bit of running and stuff. And I don't know, I think it was actually when I realized how much into CrossFit you were, and that you're even coaching now. It's like, MJ, didn't you always do CrossFit? You can totally do CrossFit, So because, each to their own, but I don't think Mariana would want to go for a muscular type look. But that doesn't happen to all women CrossFitters,
right. That takes a lot of hard work.
It does.
Again, that's kind of a myth. It's you step into a CrossFit gym, you're going to look like that. No, actually, it takes a lot more than just stepping into a CrossFit gym to look like that.
Yes, it does.
And like you said, each to his own. But the yoga part of what she's learned will be very beneficial for her as she starts CrossFit. I think every CrossFitter could actually benefit from yoga stretching. And if there's one thing that I would say to people who start CrossFit is don't stop stretching. Stretching is super important. And for her to have that as a foundation is going to just be very helpful for her. I
totally agree. I think that the optimal thing is CrossFit 5 days a week, some sort of a workout with extra stretching, maybe on Saturday, and yoga or something on Sunday. Or if you want to just do straight up yoga on Saturday and take a day off, I think that's great too.
Exactly.
I'm not doing anything on Saturday and Sundays now, except I did put in a pull-up bar in our front yard. And so I'm excited about getting some extra reps in on that.
Play around
but
there.
You do need rest. But to your point, yoga and CrossFit fit together very well.
Yeah.
What are you doing with diet?
So right now, actually, I'm on a template called Renaissance Periodization. And that's just it's a business model, business. I don't even know the names of the people that have written it, but basically have an app now, and I use their app. You put in your goals, and they have 3 different phases. You can do bulking, you can do maintenance, or you can do cutting. And you just put in your stats and tell it kind of what you want, and then they build this template for you. Super effective, kind of crazy, creepy effective, really. And so that's what I'm using. That's what I'm going on. And I know that there's that Adam, the owner of our gym, he uses some of that for some of his clients as well, or kind of what they suggest. So it breaks down your macronutrients, but their big thing is putting carbs around your workout. So like an hour and a half before, like getting most of your carbs for the day around the actual workout. So getting your fuel for the day around the workout, and then using like protein and slower, like the things that metabolize slower during the rest of the day.
Interesting. So this is an app. Is it the same one Patrick uses, by the way? Okay.
It is.
So Patrick has shown me that in the past.
Yeah.
And
you can use like MyFitnessPal to track food or whatever, but this actually gives you your actual macronutrients, and then you put in what you're eating, and it tells you if you're hitting it or if you're not. It just kind of takes out the guesswork.
And you also put in the time that you're going to work out, and then it helps you with the timing of what you eat throughout that day.
You tell it what time you go to bed, what time you get up, what time your workout is, how long it lasts, how active you would actually say it is. And surprisingly enough, for CrossFit, you say it's a light active. You don't make it hard. And then it sets up like when you should eat and how many times per day, and how much of each of like the carbs, protein, and fat of each of those meals.
Okay. Are you sticking to that, or are you adding in like, I don't know what this is calling out, because it doesn't sound like it's like a certain type of diet like paleo or keto or whatnot, but are you like cheating some too, whatever that might be?
Yeah. So like this past weekend when I was in Florida, I didn't stick to it. I knew kind of what I was supposed to be doing and when. And so I tried to kind of stick clean, but I didn't stick around because I wasn't working out then either. So I knew it was going to change anyway. People that would be like really hardcore, let's say you're getting ready for a competition or something like that, they would stick to it very religiously. So I don't give myself cheat days when I'm at home, because on Sunday it just knows I don't work out. And so it will give me a different set of macronutrients that day. And then the days that I'm working out, I try to stick to it pretty good. I just feel really good on it. I feel better. I told Patrick, I said, just with my genetics and where I came from, one thing that was really hard for my family was I'm a hard gainer. Either I'm a hard gainer with muscle and a hard gainer with fat. So that's my body type. I have to work for every muscle that I grow. And, my family has not really had the issue with weight, but we've had the issue of actually absorbing nutrients. And so I was with my sisters, and I'm sure they'll probably listen to this and laugh because I couldn't believe how little they ate. I was eating all the time, but I was able, through this template, able to actually restart my metabolism. And it feels good to eat. And that used to not be the case.
Yeah, eating's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. If you're doing it on your own terms. I don't like to eat breakfast. I don't like to eat lunch. I don't like to eat when I'm supposed to be working, like those types of things. But when it's time to eat, eating's fun. I eat in the evening.
So do you do the, is it keto then that you do?
I am doing carnivore.
Or IT, I guess, intermittent. You are doing carnivore.
Yeah, I guess I'm doing two things. I'm doing intermittent fasting, which honestly, I'm not doing so much. I got into intermittent fasting. Basically, I backed into it. Basically, I just didn't feel great when I was eating typical types of breakfast. I just felt like my body didn't need that. And then, so I just quit that. And then I would have something for lunch. And then I was basically just eating like a couple of like healthy granola bars for lunch until really at the beginning of this year. And I quit that too. And so I don't eat until 5 or 6 o'clock, like anything. Now,
and you work out at 11
Yeah,
or
work out 11:30.
On a fast.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I feel great. So I only started doing this protein shake after working out, like I said, a month and a half ago or so. And so I'm sure that helps because like right now I have 50 grams of protein in me from, noon or 11:30. And I guess that's about it. So it's not food, but there's still something in there. And I'm sure that helps.
It gives your body something to work on.
Yeah, it does. But I think the big thing is carnivore. I feel really good on carnivore. And you can eat your face off. You can eat as much as you want. And so I do. And so every night.
Any kind of meat?
Any kind of meat. Okay. I mean, all I'm eating really is ground beef and steaks.
Okay, so red meat,
that's
mostly
all
red meat.
I'm eating red meat.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mariana makes fish, which she does occasionally, for the kids, then I'll have some bites of that if there's extra. I mean, I love fish, but I'm making my own food because she's not making ground beef or steaks for the kids every night. So I make my own dinner, which I kind of enjoy that process too. I've actually really like grown to enjoy that, and that's different too. But when you eat meat, there's no carbs, and I think a lot of people would say you shouldn't work out on an empty stomach, or that's not like the optimal. But I think something about having that much meat or just protein in your system and no carbs at all, your body sort of fires differently and burns differently is my understanding. And you don't have the energy spikes. This was the biggest thing. This is by far the biggest thing I noticed with both the meat diet. Well, no, just the meat diet. I was going to say intermittent fasting, but this wouldn't be the case. If I had a lunch today of, let's just say, ground beef, which I don't eat lunch, but if I were to eat some lunch today and I had a little ground beef, or if I had ground beef with some potatoes or some potato salad or some bread or something like that, or God forbid, like some pizza. Like if I had pizza for lunch, about 2 hours later, I am dogging. I'm tired. Like I'm going to be around here. I'm going to need to go outside and get some fresh air or get another coffee or like wake yourself up. Like you just feel like you need a nap. At least I do on carbs, but
it's that blood sugar drop.
That's
that spike and that drop off.
Exactly. But with carnivore, I don't have energy drops. It's just a very consistent, and it's there when I need it. Like at 11:30 CrossFit, I'm working out on an empty stomach. All I have until then is one espresso first thing in the morning around 7 or 8 o'clock and a glass of kombucha. And that's all I have. And
you're giving yourself some enzymes and some good digestive gut probiotics or prebiotics or whatever's in that kombucha.
Yeah, that probably helps. But the energy is there at 11:30 when I work out. It's there. So I really feel good on it.
Do you follow Michaela Peterson? She's a carnivore
Jordan
diet.
Peterson's. I did know she was carnivore.
She actually has cured herself from an autoimmune disorder, or I guess cured herself is kind of in quotes because you're not supposed to be able to cure yourself, right? But she's, it's not, what is the term they use for an autoimmune that is not active?
Oh,
inactive or dormant. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's red meat. And she tries to add different meats, like other kinds of meat, and has different reactions at times, but it's basically a red meat. She calls it the lion's diet, I think is what she calls it, but it's carnivore, and she's a huge proponent. And she just does like butter, salt, and pepper.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, so she's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So I'm red meat, eggs,
okay,
yogurt.
Okay, interesting.
And or cottage cheese, but we don't have that around so much. And then, salt and pepper, but I'll throw Red Hot on it. I don't care. But I got into I'm starting to enjoy being in the kitchen and making food and things like that. And a few weeks ago, I was like, I wanted to make some things other than meat. So I made some green beans and I put some garlic cloves in there with butter and sauteed them. And I looked up a recipe. I actually had a lot of fun making them and they turned out beautifully. And I ate them with the steak, and 15 minutes in, my body's just like, ugh. Like I feel sick. Like I get stomach cramps, kind of.
Which, I feel like if there's anything that has come out with all of these diets that we've been introduced to over the last, 20 years, it's that one is we are learning to listen to our bodies. Mm-hmm. We're much more in tune to our bodies, and that what we're eating is affecting what we're feeling, right?
Yes.
I feel like that has happened. And I think we're also more aware that these diets aren't for everybody across the board.
That's right.
So for you, for Michaela, for some body types, this carnivore diet is exactly what your body needs.
Yes.
Whatever's going on. Maybe it is something that, if not addressed, would have caused these issues down the road, but your body's able to speak to you, you're able to listen to it, to know what's going on enough to know, no, this is actually what works for me. Where then the next person might feel better on a keto or might feel better on something, but I feel like we're learning that.
I agree with that 100%. What you eat just affects how you feel. I mean, there's no way around that. I started carnivore April the 7th of this year and thought I would do it for, what was my goal? 3 months.
Were you doing it with a friend or just got curious?
I came to the end of myself.
So you were feeling not well.
I was feeling like crap.
Okay.
And it was a Saturday around noon. Mariana had made some chicken sausage with quinoa, with some other stuff. I mean, this was...
Sounds super healthy.
It was healthy.
Yeah.
And I ate it. And my stomach was cramping kind of, and I don't get like gas. I don't get the craps. It's not like any of that. It just feels heavy. I feel bloated. Mm-hmm. I feel like someone pumps a whole bunch of air into my stomach, and it feels like crampy, and I just don't feel good. And I was over it. I was like, this is not, this can't be how I always have to feel on food. It's supposed to be fun to eat. It's supposed to feel good. So I was like, I'm going to do carnivore again because I had done it for 1 week in 2018 and felt good on it. But my concern was doing it for too long. Like back then I was concerned about like, well, should I do it much more than a week? Is it going to have negative health effects? Those types of things. Because everywhere you see, it's like, don't eat red meat. Like eat your salads, eat your greens, like none of this stuff.
Yeah, well, it used to be like don't eat fats too. Again, like
true.
We're learning these things.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're right. Weird. It's like don't eat the red meat.
Yeah. So the carnivore is you basically just eat red meat. So I did it through July and did it pretty cleanly, and I got rid of some gut. And I'm sure going across it 5 days a week over that time helped too. But the carnivore definitely helped with the gut. It's one of the things that tends to help a lot of people that go on it. You kind of get that carb fat goes away. And then I was just feeling really good on it. And I cheat. Like, I mean, I'm cheating too much right now. Like I'm cheating, by cheating, I guess. Here's how I would put it. I'm eating carnivore probably 85 to 90% of the time. And that last 10 to 15% is a problem, sometimes like 3 chocolate chip cookies instead of 1, like that type of thing.
But your body probably tells you, reminds you, and then you're like, yep, that's why.
Yeah. So I got blood work done in August, I think it was August. And I am the healthiest that I've been in 4 years.
So how, spell that out? Like,
So
how did it look?
means-
How did it look differently?
Yep. So my cholesterol is lower than it's been for the last 3 blood works over the last 4 years.
Okay.
Yep. And my cholesterol was higher, but it was higher with HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and LDL is the bad. And I know it's not quite that clean, but that's more or less the story there. So not only did my cholesterol drop on the meat diet, my HDL actually increased. And my understanding is the only way you can increase your HDL is exercise. If you want more HDL in your cholesterol, you can't get that from any kind of food. There's no kind of food you can use to increase your HDL.
Interesting.
What you do to increase your HDL is exercise. And HDL is like train cars carrying LDL, the bad fat, through your bloodstream. And so if people have high cholesterol, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, although it could be.
Right.
But if it's high because your HDL's high, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think in terms of when people's cholesterol is high, the first thing everyone thinks is diet, which is not bad. Diet has a lot to do with cholesterol. So go ahead and clean up your diet. That's totally fine. But if you're not going to increase your exercise also, you're not increasing your HDL, which is the train cars to remove the LDL. And so you're wasting some opportunity at the very least.
So fascinating.
So my cholesterol is the best it's ever been. And then I was on some supplements for zinc, for vitamin A, vitamin B, and that's vitamin D. And all of those levels, I'm perfect.
That's crazy. So basically, it's those key vitamins and minerals that for some reason before your body wasn't able to take from your foods, that you had to supplement. And now you feel like your body has been able to take it from your foods or from food and do with it whatever it is supposed to do.
That is correct. And it's probably 2 things there. One is a lot, like basically red meat has everything you need. I know that's a little bit of an overstatement, but whereas you can't, some would argue with me, but very few people can just eat greens and be healthy. Very, very few. Basically none, because B12 doesn't even come from any kind of green. So if you're going to just eat greens, that's fine. You better be complementing with B12.
You have to be very,
you can't get that from greens. So basically, where am I going with this point? Because I wasn't knocking vegetarians or vegans. It's the point that I think there's two things that help me. One is by eating so much red meat, I got so much more nutrients. But then two, and I think this was the more important thing, is when I cut out carbs, potatoes, bread, pasta, like those types of things, those are can be really inflammatory in my body. And so I might have, if right now I eat the same amount of meat that I'm eating and add those other things back in, I am going to have a drop in my health. I know it, because my body's going to react and shut down in certain ways and inflame in certain ways based on this other food that's coming in. And if you can just eat the meat and not all this other food, then your body reacts. But
you've taken away the distractions for your body.
Yes, exactly. But I really like your point, which is that diets are different for different body types, and that should not be a surprise to us. I mean, I totally agree. It's like if we put peanut butter in a syringe and told everyone, like, you got to take a syringe full of peanut butter. Well, some people are going to die from that, and other people are going to get sick, and some people aren't going to feel well, and then a whole bunch of people are going to love it. You know what I mean?
They're going to be like having the best day of their life.
Exactly. So I think, that's an exaggeration, but diets can be somewhat the same. Like there's the carnivore probably isn't for everyone. Although for I will say, if you've tried a few diets and you haven't tried carnivore, I think if you're male or female, and you're still working with some issues, particularly autoimmune related or thyroid related, strongly consider the carnivore diet.
Yeah, it is. I think I love the scientific part of it. Like, I freak out and geek out at all. And I think it's only, we're just scratching the surface as to understanding why that might be. Because I love to try to stay balanced. Like, I'm a curious person, so I like to bring in all the different thoughts, right? Yep. So I follow Michaela and love it. But then I also follow Tabitha Brown, who's been a vegan for 3 years, and adore her. And if there's anybody that could convince me to be vegan, it'd be her. But she also healed herself from a disease. And it's like fascinating. It's like, okay, so what was about her body that felt completely different and better, and she's living her best life on vegan, when you, on the other hand, like, needed the carnivore diet. It's just so fascinating to me and excites me, because I think as we learn more about different bodies, different genetics, different, our microbiome, all of that, as we learn more about that and learn that we're all individual, we'll be able to understand why it is that these different diets are better for this person and then this person.
Yes, I totally agree. And I got a genetics test this year also.
Okay,
and that was another kind of propulsion point into the carnivore diet, because two things popped up on that was evident. Well, one, I have the MTHFR deficiency. So do you really?
Yeah, I do.
So Jamie has this like pink cream that you put on twice a day. If you don't do that, it might be something you'd want to consider. Yeah.
So tell me more, like, pink cream. What's the purpose for? What is
it called? It's basically, it has a bunch of vitamins in it.
So basically put it on your skin so your skin can absorb it quickly. Okay.
Yeah. Anywhere on your skin topically. I put it, I squirt it on my sternum area, and then I just use my wrists and I rub it on my belly. In the morning and in the evening. And that is, if you have at least a certain type of MTHFR deficiency, that is something that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
And because I think with that situation, there's some things going on there that can't completely be complemented from diet, I think.
Yeah, MTHFR, I always feel like if I even try to talk about it, I butcher it. But basically, there's kind of two things that go on. And again, there's lots of different kinds of MTHFR, or different degrees maybe, or but basically it's your body can't absorb key nutrients for whatever reason, and your body also typically doesn't detox on its own like some bodies would. So, like, for instance, if I have MTHFR, which again, maybe some of the reason why, something like vaccinations react differently in different bodies.
Yep.
If somebody has a vaccination, does not have the MTHFR gene mutation, their body may be able to just detox out those heavy metals, no problem whatsoever. Not me. My body hangs on to it, and it causes problems.
Yes.
So it just pushes it deeper into its cells, because it does not know what to do with these problems.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there's like, even that, I mean, start there. Find out if you have that gene mutation. It's an easy blood test. And that will give you direction on what to take or what to eat or this cream. I've never heard of the cream. I want to know more about it.
Yep. I'll text you a picture of it later.
Yeah.
But that, and then that was the second thing that I found out on that genetics test was that my body's not going to detox like some bodies do. And so I got into sauna. I did sauna every day for the month of August, and I want to get one here. It's people need to be doing sauna.
Yeah, I agree.
You need to be doing sauna.
I agree. Well, I that's where I use Candace's Pure Sweat. I use a sauna.
Just go in and pay as you go, or are you a member?
So Patrick had given me like a package for my birthday that I'm actually just working through.
Okay.
But love the sauna.
Okay.
The sauna, I agree. It almost gives me this same feeling I get after a good workout, like almost this weird high.
Yep.
It's like, whoa. And then if you combine that, I love to combine the sauna with the float. Like I love to do both of them together.
So have you floated multiple times down there?
I have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many floats did Patrick get you?
He has gotten me, he got a couple like where we could both go, like
cool.
Where a double, like he and I go, obviously have our own float tank. And I think I have one more left on my, gift card, but that's a pretty crazy experience. And I know Patrick's first experience was with you here in Nashville a couple years ago, which I think the tanks there were completely different, right?
They were. Yeah. He had an open tank.
Okay.
And I had a sensory deprivation tank that was like a big metal coffin, and the door popped open on the end and you crawled in there. And the only thing I could think most of the time I was in there is like, this is a scheme. They're going to kill us, because it's a metal door. And when that door shuts, it's like, I don't know. What if something goes wrong with that door? Am I going to be able to get back out? What if there's a malfunction?
So you spend your whole time like thinking, going through?
No, but a fair amount. I was a little scared. Although in that sensory deprivation tank, I felt like I was floating through space in a way that I haven't quite felt in the other tanks.
Patrick had the same experience in that tank. And I don't know that he's had that in these as well. He said he felt like it was like hurling through space.
I really did. So I need to talk to Patrick about it because now I'm kind of curious why that difference was. It can't be coincidence that we both felt that in those tanks and didn't feel it in some of these other tanks. But I do enjoy this experience, better. I was in for an hour on Thursday and it's about right or maybe a little bit long. I think 45 minutes to an hour is good. But 30 minutes is just not long enough.
So I think he got me the 90-minute. I think I'm in there an hour and a half. Yeah.
Ooh. Are you falling asleep? Because that's long.
Well, I often have this sensation of like, where you get, when you are falling asleep in your bed, you get to this point where you're almost asleep and then you kind of jolt awake. So I have some of that. I have fallen asleep as well. Yeah. But not like I do. I actually fall asleep more quickly, like if I'm getting like a massage, like a deep tissue massage or whatever. In the float tank, I do have just more of this, I don't know, I love it. I feel like I often come away with, like you said, you had kind of this epiphany. Like I come away with either clarity or something clarity around something I'd been thinking about earlier. Maybe it's just simply time to sit and think. Yeah. But then the magnesium, I actually feel the benefit of the magnesium for a few days afterward.
Interesting.
Like, I don't think that's just my head. Like I feel like the relaxation keeps going for me for a couple of days. And then I feel like my workout recoveries are faster for sure.
Okay.
For the next couple of days,
because
which would be
the float
magnesium.
or the sauna? The float.
Because of the magnesium.
Interesting.
That's a magnesium benefit.
Oh, there's a big magnesium benefit to being in that float tank.
Yeah.
What I noticed when I was doing sauna 7 days a week, because I bought unlimited for 30 days, so I just did it every single day.
Did you do like the different, like did you use the same color every time? Or
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. She had said, okay, there's different colors and they do some different things, but it's somewhat minimal on the different effects. So I just never messed with it. It was always blue light and I just left it because it was working for me. And it even helped with back pain. And I would like lay on my stomach to let the lights hit my back and kind of penetrate into my back muscles. But I also think there's a benefit there just from the heat and the increased circulation. It enlarges your blood vessels and everything. And so I really like that. And I actually felt like it helped my performance at CrossFit.
So I love the red light, by the way. For some reason, it feels warmer, or it's like the blue feels cool. And I typically use the red light. But super curious if you did this before you ate then? Like, did you work out and then do the sauna and then, or how did you replace the electrolytes? Because you were sweating out a ton those 7 days a week if you worked out and did sauna.
Yeah. No, I would do the 11:30 class and then halfway through that point, probably I started doing protein shakes, drink a lot of water, and then hit sauna on the way home.
And then you would...
So then I wouldn't eat until I got home.
Then you would eat when you got home, which you were replacing a lot of through the food that you were eating. But did you feel like really weak before you ate? Like, did you feel anything different during those days of sauna before you ate?
No.
Interesting.
I felt, a lot of times, if I'm getting home at 5 or 6, I'm going to be hungry. But like right now, I'm not hungry, to be honest with you. I'm not hungry at all, actually.
I'm ravenous.
Really? That's because your body's all in this carbs. Like, it's time to eat.
It's probably true.
No, being hungry is great. It feels good to be hungry.
It does feel good to be hungry.
It feels good to be hungry.
Yeah.
I'm also not that hungry because I cheated last night in my body. I just didn't feel, like I can tell it's like a little off. But
you feel like you need a reset or like you.
I feel like I need to eat clean.
And I
for
felt
this
like
week,
that with my boys when they were. I have both the boys and I actually, the three of us walked a pretty intense Lyme journey. And so it didn't take long for Ben, once we started tightening up our diet, to actually like want to eat well. So like if he did cheat, it was a remotivation for him to actually get back and feel better, because once you're so in touch with your body, like last night, if you did have that cheat, it's like, okay, well, that was fun and whatever, no shame in that. But actually I can't wait now to have that good steak tomorrow night. And it keeps you from cheating too often, I think, if you really start listening to your body like that.
I totally agree, because you start to experience the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. And this is Patrick and I had this conversation at some point this summer, which is that we're both feeling gains. And actually, there was a neighbor that I was having this conversation too. We were all kind of in the same place, which is that we're all feeling gains. We're all feeling good. We're all the most fit that we've been in some time. And this is usually about the time we fall off the wagon. I'm not doing that. I can't do that. I know what that feels like. Yeah. Why? Like I'm making good gains.
Yeah.
And so all I need to do is keep going. Just don't quit on this. Don't fall off the wagon. And then if you keep going, guess what? You get to feel good. Mm-hmm. You get to look good. Like all of those things. You get to have better endurance, better energy, a clearer mind. This is not rocket science. This is not some kind of confused like thing where it's like you got to go through this tunnel just right, and if you go through this tunnel just right, you get there. No, this is like eat clean, drink a ton of water, rest well, and exercise.
It just takes a ton of intention,
and consistency. It's hard to do.
And if Mariana starts going, it'll be
it'll be
easier.
fun. I think we're going to try to go to the same class, which would be a lot of fun. Back to the app thing. So it cares more about, like, does it give you direction on your diet, what you eat, or is it more telling you? You tell it what you want to eat, and it tells you how much and when.
It tells you how much and when. That's the biggest part of it. It strongly encourages you to eat clean food, because when I try to type in some foods, it's not even there.
Oh, okay.
So then it's a guessing game. So it's lean, clean foods are going to be in the app. Now it does have one of those barcode scanners. So if I put something, like if I hold up a barcode, it'll scan it. It typically is in there, especially if it's from, like Whole Foods or Publix or a store that's probably shopped at regularly.
Yep.
But like I can't even really find most cheeses, for instance, because that would see that as like probably something that should be eaten very moderately, like not very often. So it's like laughing. It's kind of like you can try, but we're not going to find it for you.
Okay, yeah. I'm only laughing because cheese is another thing I can eat on carnivore. I eat a ton of cheese,
which I love cheese. My body loves fat, and the fastest way for me to get it, or like the easiest, is either cheese and they would rather have you have like avocado, or coconut oil, or because it's actually what I'm on right now is a very little bit of fat, but
okay.
So actually, interestingly enough, the biggest amount of fat for me is at night.
Okay.
So they do want you to have casein at night before you go to bed. So
what's
casein.
That?
So it's instead of the whey protein, it's casein.
Oh,
just a different kind of protein.
Gotcha.
I think it's a slower release, maybe even, and then a nice amount of fat with that. And I typically do coconut milk. Like clean coconut milk.
Yep.
But my brain feels better if I have fat. Like,
yes,
if I go, like I tried to do Whole30 a couple years ago, and I was a monster those the first 2 weeks, because they pretty much cut all fat out until I didn't know, like all cheese. I was like, how do I get my fat?
Yeah.
And I remember the one night I was just I was beside myself. I felt like I was going to lose my mind. I literally felt like my brain was not functioning. Like I could not think. And I just did this roasted apples with cinnamon and just poured coconut milk over it. And I think I ate like a whole, whatever those small, like 8x8 pans were. I was like, my body finally has something and then I felt clear.
Yes.
So I think fat is really good and my body needs it. And so cheese is something, I could eat a block of cheese.
Well, me too. Well, it's so Whole30. Are you sure you just weren't like detoxing from not having sugar?
I probably was those first 2 weeks. So it was like the lack of sugar and you can have fat. It just wasn't the fats that, like, you can't have cheese, for instance. You couldn't have dairy. So for me, it was like, oh, I can't have that. Well, then I'm just not going to even try to figure out, until I realize I need to find fats other ways. Like I have to find it. Because cheese I don't go for milk. I don't crave milk at all.
Me neither. I don't like
cottage
milk.
cheese I love, yogurts I love, and cheese.
Yeah.
But this app there's very little cheese that it will find for me.
Interesting.
Swiss cheese it does let me have.
Okay. So are you feeling like, where are you at now? Like, are you feeling quite a bit better, but you have, you want to go so much further, or are you feeling really great right now? Like, where are you at now? Kind of with health and fitness.
Well, for fitness, I feel like the stronger I get, the more I'm curious what I'm capable of.
Oh, okay.
So I'm definitely at that point. It's like, I never saw myself as an athlete. I never thought I could do this. It was always my super strong cousins that were like the best at volleyball or the best at all these sports. And I never thought I could. And so now I'm curious. I'm like, what could a strong version of MJ look like? What could she do? So I have goals there for fitness. Definitely still want to grow stronger. And I've changed. I was like Mariana when I started CrossFit, and that I was like, I don't want to be bulky. And now I'm like, I don't care. I just want to be strong.
Yeah.
Like I just want to be strong. And then health-wise, I feel fantastic. I definitely feel better today than I ever have. And my 30-year-old self would be very jealous of what my 40-year-old self feels like, for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. That's really
Which
cool.
I know, right? We're kind of conditioned to believe that you hit 40. You've got a lot to look forward to. A lot to look forward to, Andrew. Because we're conditioned to believe that like you hit 30 or you hit 40 and that's the best you're ever going to feel.
Right.
Or maybe not even 40. And I'm like, I don't know. I think my 40s and 50s are going to be my favorite decades. Yeah.
That's great. You're 40 or 41?
I'm 41.
41. Okay.
Yeah, I turned 41 in June.
Okay.
So I feel amazing. There's definitely things that I feel like I can still tighten up and, want to, again, it's like the more I learn and know, the more I realize I don't know much. Yeah. And I really want to keep learning and knowing. Yes. Even about my own body. Like my thyroid had been pretty wonky. And so it feels healthy, but I want to get it, like I really want to make it the best it can be. Yes. And I have more time now. Like the kids are older and I can do that. And so that's what I'm having fun. So I feel fantastic. I think I often compare to what I did. I feel fantastic compared to what I did. Yep. And just believe that there's probably even a better version of myself that I can come in contact with. If I keep doing these things consistently. You're having fun. Like there's no point in stopping now, right? I mean, that's how it works. Right. Find something that that doesn't feel like, I mean, of course there's times I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel like going to the gym. But I also have gone long enough that I know that if I go and I show up, that I'm going to be rewarded the rest of the day. Like those endorphins, you have that endorphin hit. Yep. You just feel really good. And so you do it consistently long enough, your body kind of starts asking for it. Yes. And then half the work's done. Exactly. But there is something about getting your work in for the day that it feels good mentally. It feels you got that checked off. But then there's also this physiological, like physically, that you needed to get out and do something. I mean, this idea that we would be in our houses or be in our offices or sit in a car all day, this is a relatively new thing. I mean, when you think about like the Native Americans, the people that walk this land, if you tell those guys, because this was their land, like I think in terms of like what they would do and how society worked for them a fair bit, actually. If you tell those guys, no, go sit in your teepee all day. Yeah. Don't go be a warrior and don't go hunting. Yeah. Sit in your teepee most of the day, come out, take a little walk and hang out in someone else's teepee and then come back later. Those guys would have shriveled up and died. Well, they would have for sure because they, number one, wouldn't have had food. They actually had to go out and hunt down food.
Yep.
And so that was their physical work. I know when I was running, I have one cousin who's a long distance runner, and we would talk a lot about running at that point. Obviously somebody I looked up to because that's all I was doing. And I remember him telling me at one point, he was like, if you can get to the point where you can run 6 miles without stopping, didn't have to run fast, just run for 6 miles, you could outrun almost any animal. Like you could run down, because animals can run really fast, but they have to break, run really. So he was like, once you can get to the point where you can run for 6 miles, you can hunt down animals. And that's what they would have had to do, you know?
Did they do that? They just jogged after an animal and it would sprint ahead, and occasionally you would just keep jogging and sprint ahead, and you just grab by the hind leg and rip its neck?
I mean, before there was arrows, what did they do?
I don't know. I just didn't picture like people just like jogging for 6 miles straight. The zebra falls over dead.
It's like, I'm sure they had their strategy, but yeah, he was like, after you can run for 6 miles, you could outrun animals.
Interesting.
Because
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But the connection between mind and body, though, it is unfortunate when people don't pick up on that. Like, therapy has its place, and when done properly, nothing else can really replace that. You know, like, it's needed. Diet matters too. Mm-hmm. And so does exercise, and so does your community. You know what I mean? And so does your spiritual life. It's all tied together. Mm-hmm. And I don't think like having a perfect balance, like that's gonna. I mean, I don't know. That's basically impossible, right? I mean, but when we know we need some therapy, or we know, nope, I feel bad because my diet's crap, or I feel bad because I never exercise, then start there. You know, like make that a priority and work on it.
And I think if we sit and allow ourselves to be quiet long enough, we can go there. Like, I think sometimes, I agree, there are definitely seasons for therapy, and it's amazing the therapy we can find. I think sometimes we just distract ourselves and we stick Band-Aids on everything without actually really being embodied and listening to what our body's telling us or what our mind's telling us, and that we are one unit. It's not like this disconnected, you know, it's like my head is here and my body's here, and what I put in my mouth doesn't really matter because it just goes down this track and comes out. No, it's so connected.
Yes.
And it all works together. Our gut is our second brain. Our brain, you know, tells everything what to do. And, again, I feel like our generation, and for sure our kids, are much more aware of that. Maybe, I mean, I feel like that gap is bigger between like maybe our parents' generation, and maybe for right reasons. Like they had a whole other set of. I mean, they were raised by the war babies who were
true.
You know, there was just it's not a shame on that, but it's just this realization that I think we have the time, and the resources to be much more intentional and aware of those things and how they work together. And it's beautiful because we can kind of advocate for ourselves and our own health. And I think I love Jamie's episode, your episode with Jamie, and how she talked about that. It's like, how can you help people learn to advocate for their own health?
Yes.
And learn how to advocate for their own well-being. And it takes this intentional awareness of what your body's saying and how you're feeling, and how that has to do with what you're doing or not doing, what you're eating and not eating, and how you're thinking or not thinking. And it all works together.
Yeah, it totally does. And I think it's more important actually than now that people are advocates for their own health, because we deal with toxins now that we didn't 50 years ago. And there's food that looks healthy, but it's not. Like those are issues. Some of those issues didn't exist half a century ago.
Right.
And now they do exist. So it's even more important now to be an advocate for your own health, because it's really necessary. I recently heard Aubrey Marcus, the founder of On It, on a podcast. I think he's since sold that company, but talking about how he doesn't deal with depression, but he can feel like depression in his body when he eats like crap. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I feel the same.
Yeah.
Like if I eat like crap, it's going to settle in. I'm going to feel just, you know.
So it's not just physical at that point. It's also
emotional.
Physical,
it's
You're
also,
feeling
exactly.
that. Yeah.
It's emotional. It's mental. I mean, it really is. It's really tied together. I mean, I think the human optimization is an interesting discussion, not because we're going to try to be little gods, you know, we're just humans, but also like how much more can we do? How much more are we capable of? You know, what greater good can we bring to this world because we're fully like engaged and optimized? I mean, that's a big discussion to have.
It is a big discussion, and I am for progress. So I love progress, and I think, I mean, if we look at the Bible, at the biblical account, we can see it started in a garden and ended in a city. I believe God is a God of progress. I think He's for that. But I think we are wise to recognize that with progress, there will be things that come that we have to just be aware of.
Yeah.
Like I think modern medicine is amazing. We've been able to cure things or heal things or at least keep people alive longer. But then, like with antibiotics, as much as they've kept our oldest, that, you know, when she was born, she would have absolutely not made it more than 12 hours if they wouldn't have had antibiotics for her right away.
Oh, wow.
But be aware that it just obliterates all of the bacteria, good and bad.
Yeah.
So okay, we need that, and it's amazing. But there's sacrifices that come with progress that we can be aware of and go, okay, that's amazing, but how can we live with this sacrifice, or what can we do to then, you know, replace that bacteria
exactly.
in the discussion about antibiotics, or I mean, social media, or I mean, it was all the way back when the printing press was made. People raised hell about that. It's like, oh my word, this is horrible. Now people are going to be able to read, and it's going to, you know, the church didn't love it because they're going to have all these people have their own knowledge now, and we can't control them or whatever. So I think there is fear that comes with progress at times. And I don't think we have to be afraid of it. It is a deep conversation. I think we can, but I think we do have to be aware that there are sacrifices with progress. And that's just part of it.
Yeah. Did you get a new tattoo?
I actually got this the Saturday before what Patrick and I call the confession, which I don't know if Patrick was on here for that. Yeah.
So it was hold it up this way a second.
It's kind of hard to turn my arm. It's like kind of on a weird angle.
So it's a triangle. Can you face it to the camera maybe? So what do we got there? Maybe you can't. It's just right there.
Okay, right here.
So you got a triangle.
It's a triangle, and within the triangle, so the lines aren't broken. The lines just go with the lettering. Then it says, "It is well."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So okay. That was one I had drawn up.
Yeah, that's very cool.
A while ago, and never got it done.
You came up with that?
Yeah. It came to, I don't even remember exactly when it came to me, but it was over some struggle I was having in my head at one point.
Yeah.
So it stands for, well, I just love the triangle. I love a triangle. It stands for the Trinity, as well as our marriage union with Christ.
Oh, wow.
And how that when those things are all connected, then it truly is well.
Dang. Yeah. You letting other people get that tattoo as well?
Oh, I haven't had anybody ask.
Do you have a trademark on it?
I don't have a trademark on it. No.
That's very cool.
But thank you.
Yeah, Patrick did talk about the confession on here when he was on, I think the second time or the first time. I can't remember. Okay. No, the first time. You had mentioned some interest in or reading up on or learning about polarities between masculine and feminine. Is it masculinity and femininity, or masculine energy and feminine energy?
Masculine essence, feminine essence, all of the above. Yeah.
All right. So what is it about that's interesting to you? What are you learning in that area?
And it feels like so much to learn, and like I know so little. So apologies to anybody who is an expert in this, and comment below if there's comments on if there's things that I say that are not.
This is not medical advice.
Yes. So it has a lot less to do with gender, because I believe everybody, man and woman, has both masculine and feminine essence, energy flowing through them. I believe God is both masculine and feminine. I believe that's why marriage is so powerful, and why it's such a powerful picture of God, because of that. And so it's not as much about gender, although statistically they say somewhere in the 90 to 95% of males will probably have a higher amount of masculinity. Okay. And then females will have the higher, but we can tap into the other, and it's probably healthy to actually tap into both of them in times. I mean, and so masculine being more that grounded, strong, erect, sort of presence, and the woman more soft, open, chaotic, kind of you think of like the chaos and order polarity. So feminine bringing more of that chaotic essence, and then the masculine bringing more of that like order and how that plays out, and how important it is to have that polarity in a relationship, especially in a marriage relationship. But also then to be aware of it in yourself as well, and to know how to tap in and when it's out of balance, or when it's needed, or when it's, and I grew up in a culture where I saw much more, even in women, I saw much more of the masculine essence growing up, that strong German workhorse. You pull up your bootstraps and you just
in the
get
women
things
too.
done. Yes.
That's interesting.
So it's been a very fascinating, kind of uncomfortable, disorienting journey for me to kind of figure out and find what the feminine essence looks like in me. Because it's vulnerable and it's open, and it's this openness to, well, I mean, you can see it obviously sexually. It's very obvious, so masculine is meant to penetrate, feminine is meant to be penetrated. So it's that openness and just kind of open. Yeah. And not having this certitude, knowing exactly, what I'm about and doing at all times, and just being okay with like, yeah, well, today I feel like taking a nap. And there's obviously, like I said, it's very important at times to be in my masculine and go, no, there's times to get things done. So it's not even just in how I engage in my day. It's also in just my presence in the world. And so, yeah, it's been fascinating. Patrick and I have been both actually on that journey and learning more about that, and have a lot to learn about it. It's not something I have definitely mastered at all. Or
yeah. Where are you getting information on that?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of information, and you can definitely find every flavor. I mean, you can find, crazy stuff. And then you can find, there's David Dida is really great author who talks about the masculine part of it. And it's been his book, The Way of the Superior Man.
Is that the book you guys are reading, or are you just kind of following the author?
Well, the author's great to follow, but that book in particular was one that we listened to on audio together.
What's it called again?
The Way of the Superior Man.
Okay.
Super helpful for me, even to just understand the masculine and the masculine energy, and the way that the masculine views the world, and the desires of the masculine. And then there's I'm not going to remember her name. I just bought her book, but there's a woman who learned a lot from him and actually started writing books kind of on the opposite, like for the feminine. And she wrote a book called Powerful and Feminine that I'm actually reading right now and really enjoying as well. So again, you can find, it's kind of a trend, I guess, right now, depending on where you're looking and learning. But so there's a lot that you can learn. I also there's a few Christian women that I follow on Instagram who are standing up and being the voice for the feminine, like not being afraid of your feminine sensuality. Because that's something, again, the culture that we grew up in, which I love. As I'm getting older, I actually am falling more in love with what raised me. But part of the way that I can do that is because I'm also able to look at things that don't serve me well anymore. Like I can almost love it more because I can look at it and go, this is what was amazing, and this doesn't serve me well anymore.
Right.
And one of those things, I think, was the fear around the feminine and what she was about. And we were taught that it was, her sensuality was dangerous and it was powerful. And you're right, it is dangerous and it's powerful, but it's not something to be afraid of. So as girls in that culture, you grew up kind of fearing that about yourself. It's like you were taught that it was up to you to keep men from falling in a way. And then you grow up and you go through puberty and you're like, wait, but am I the one? Like, is it me? My body's changing. Am I actually one of the ones that could cause that? And so it's like you don't even learn how to lean into that part of you that could be a gift to the world, and you just have hidden it. So that's kind of the journey that we're walking on in that. It's like how to invite that or awaken that in our relationship. And also help our children like have a proper view of that and not be afraid of it in either one of them. Like for the boys, not to be afraid to be strong and know what they're about and lean into that. And for the girls, not to be afraid to be, open to love and not to be guarded and self-protected and afraid of their own femininity.
Yeah. Can I give you an example on the fear?
Sure.
From the feminine side, because you mentioned your background, which is very similar to my background, and there was a very respectable man in that same background, not a family member or related to me in any way, but that legitimately, and I'm not, I don't want to preface this too much, but this is serious. Like he was serious, and this was not a joke or whatever, but he made the observation that divorce rates are higher in churches that were not part of our organization because, or part of our upbringing, culture, tradition, that type of thing. Because in like those churches, you have women worshiping on a Sunday morning with their hair down. And in our churches, the way we do it, like the women had their hair up, they had a bonnet on their head and everything, and furthermore, they're wearing a dress. But just that idea of like their hair is up and it's covered with a bonnet or head veiling of some kind, that is why that can contribute to families staying together, marriages staying together better, because you don't have this, I guess, attraction from women worshiping on a Sunday morning in church with their hair down. Has he changed his, we were talking about, everyone having the right to changing his opinion.
Yes.
If I talk to him, if I called him right now, I still know him. I still respect him in a lot of things. He's just very wrong on that point. And it's sort of sad because it speaks to the danger that you're talking about. Young women, put your hair up, put a head veiling on it. And I understand they would get a biblical,
that was their interpretation of a certain
explanation from the Bible. Yeah. So they're not doing it necessarily for those reasons, but you're right. There's a lot of people, our culture even aside, there's a lot of people that are, and lots of religions actually, when you think about it, that are very fearful of feminine energy. And I guess the power that contribution to the world, you want to sort of cloak that, keep that at bay because it can be dangerous.
Yeah. There's a book also called Pure by Linda K. Klein, and she grew up in the purity culture, fundamental evangelical Christian culture, and she takes apart, and I haven't read the whole book yet, but I'm reading through it right now and love it as well, takes apart how some of it may have, again, like, when I critique something, it's not to burn the whole thing down.
Right.
It's more to take, the wheat from the chaff. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff. So I'm not saying that it didn't do any good, but she's just pointing out some of the inconsistencies and some of the damage it may have done. And one of it, she uses a story where, if you were a little girl growing up in a medieval town, living in a castle, and you were taught that there was a dragon out there that would destroy the men of the castle. And you wake up at about 12 or 13 one morning and you start to see scales growing on your skin. And you start to realize, again, going through puberty, that you may be the dragon and what to do with that and how to and how do you walk through that. And I read that for the first time and I literally just had tears running down my face because it was like, I understand that feeling. It's like, I don't know what to do with what's happening to me as a woman, as a little girl, because I know that what's happening is what I've been taught is what men can't help themselves with. And so I better shut this thing down or at least hide it as much as possible. And that is the danger in some of that. Instead of going, no, this is a gift to the world. And it's exactly what you were created to do. You were created to bring beauty, to bring that gift to the world. It is very powerful. Let's talk about that. Like, let's not just ignore that and say, oh, do with it what you want. No, be aware of that is something, but that it's a gift and it's not something that you have to be ashamed of, that should be called dangerous. So yeah, I'm again, like just in early stages of that, but have been having a lot of fun in learning more about that. And
yeah, that's a really interesting. I wasn't aware that it was trendy. I wasn't aware it was trending or whatever. But I'm fascinated by it, and it's a good time to have this discussion culturally and societally too, as we sort of, I feel like, are just, it's the thing now to tear down all of these differences and to not have a difference. And if you don't want to identify as either male or female, that's fine. Like we can, or just pick one if you want to change it. That's like, it's all so upheaved and confused and it's all up for grabs right now. So it's a good time to be having that discussion.
And I wonder sometimes if, again, I don't feel like I have authority to even speak on a lot of this, but I wonder sometimes if some of the confusion is coming simply because of this denying of what we know so deep to be true. And so we're not even allowed to think about, what's true. And it just confuses us. Like we don't, when I think of the Bible, and I've been having a lot of fun too, just kind of rereading the Bible through new eyes. I don't know if you ever talk about other podcasts on your podcast.
Why not?
Okay.
Which one are you thinking about?
One podcast that has been...
No, we have the monopoly on podcasts. Don't you mention that title.
One podcast I've been loving is the Bema podcast.
Bema.
The Bema podcast.
How do you spell Bema?
Bema. And it's Marty Solomon is the host. And he goes through the Bible from an Eastern perspective instead of a Western perspective. Absolutely blows my mind. Like just completely new ways of looking at the Bible. Like my favorite stories right now in the Bible are the story of Cain and Abel and the story of Noah. Like the stories that growing up would have just been like, they would have either been made into flannel graph and some, you would have put it in your nursery and put this little ark up or whatever, and Noah with a dove and a olive branch, or Cain and Abel, like, well, don't be like Cain, be like Abel. And, if you're like Cain, you're going to be marked for the rest of your life. Just, just a very literal, maybe reading of the word. And then, well, sometimes you extract out of it what you want to for an agenda or whatever. But to be able to look at it and go, these stories, if they're not true on multiple dimensions, then we're probably not reading it correctly. And I'm trying to remember why I was going there with the, back to the parts about femininity and masculinity is like, we know these things to be true about ourselves. If we allow ourselves to sit with it, it's just, we haven't been given the permission to think about them in these ways. And I feel like some of these authors and these women that I'm following are maybe doing that for me, just giving me the permission to think about things in a way that I feel like I already know. I just wasn't ever given the permission to. Yeah. To stay curious about it.
The one thing that's interesting to me that you touched on, which I guess I never really thought of in those concrete terms, is what does it feel like to be a young woman or to be a woman and to feel like you're starting to grow scales and you're becoming the dragon, you're becoming danger, you're becoming the enemy of good moral choices in some sense, and the responsibility lies primarily with you to not let men be dumb blokes,
Which I'm just
perverted.
Gonna call bullshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's total bullshit. It totally is. It's unfortunate.
Again, it translates into so much of our life. It translates into our relationships, for sure, our marriage relationship. It translates into probably your sexual experience. It's like you're taught that you have to deny what's so out of your control. So you're, you're starting to grow breasts and you're starting to grow hips and these things are things you can't control, but they're dangerous. And they're probably going to cause men to fall. So you better watch it. Yikes. And you better cover that up and you better not, for sure not, like pay any attention to it. Yeah. Be scared of it or whatever. And then at the same time, you have to wait on somebody else, a man, preferably in our culture, to wake up that sensuality. Like, don't you dare even be in touch with your sexuality or your sensuality before somebody else wakes it up. It's just, it's so, I just don't see it serving relationships well into marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. I think certainly, I mean, there's a lot of things from that, but certainly one of the things, because I'm a guy, is it displaces the responsibility like so poorly and so incorrectly and so obviously. It's shocking that we've allowed that to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? To make this the ladies' problem. And obviously, I guess it's different in different cultures. So some people might be listening to this and be like, I don't really know exactly what they're talking about. Like, I didn't experience that. Like, you know, my mom taught me as a young man that, you know, that's how women are, and this is how you need to respond and everything like that. So, but then some people might be listening to this and really relate with it, but it does seem to be, while it might vary depending on the culture, it does sort of seem to be an overall issue.
It does. And I grew up in a family where my mom actually was very different than a lot of moms of my friends. And she did teach us about, I feel like, as well, better than a lot of my friends' moms. I feel like, you know, what healthy sexual relationships look like, and that it's not, and that, like, for instance, that a woman would want sex as much as a man would. Like, she was very good at teaching us what I feel like was a little ahead of her time, especially in our culture. And I still took it on from the culture. I still took that on, that like, you're dangerous. What you bring to the table is probably something that needs to be, if not covered completely, needs to at least be like really shut down and oppressed. And yes, you're right. I'm sure it's not universal. I think there are cultures that celebrate it a lot more, but I feel like it goes hand in hand so often with religion. It's like, it's the one way to control creativity, and because that is like the chaotic feminine brings creativity. It brings, because that's the feminine in you is that creative, like, so again, you have the feminine and masculine essence, and it's that chaotic creativity, beauty that you bring as well. And if we're taught that is something that is so dangerous, look around, you know, it's like, when you have religion that wants to control and keep people from being creative, it often does translate into the arts and into, you know, all of that becomes dangerous as well, because that's the feminine part of society.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it's not gender.
Okay, so I wasn't thinking in those terms, but it's sort of clicking now. So if we think about religions, whatever they may be, you know, wrong iterations on the Christian religion or false religions, what we would consider false religions. And, you know, people would disagree with us on which religions are false, maybe which aren't, which that's totally fine. But the putting the cloak, or a wet blanket, if you will, on females can sort of be the Trojan horse for doing the same with feminism, which includes creativity and free thinking and all of these other things, which, if you let that run too rampantly, can damage your religion.
Because it's very hard to control. It's very hard, yeah.
So this topic is,
and the feminine needs the masculine. We need order. We need order. We do need that. Like, that's why the blend is, the polarity is very important. But to totally nix the feminine and femininity,
right,
and have only, then you've got totalitarianism. Right. Then it's all order. Then it's that marching to the, you know, it's that goose step. It's only that. And that's what you end up with.
That's interesting. Okay, let me ask you this. This is the one thing I wasn't clear on. And I mean, I'm always sort of just naturally like skeptical about new information and new trends and those types of things.
Probably why we could talk for a long time, because I'm curious and let it in and then go, oh, maybe not, maybe not.
Well, I'm curious too, and I let it in, but I always like to okay, if I was someone who disagreed with this, how would I poke holes in it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Super healthy.
Yeah. And so one of the questions that I had is, let's take passion, for example, because I saw a list that had a list of masculine traits, a list of feminine traits, and passion was on the feminine side.
Okay.
You could use controlling as another example. That was on the masculine side. But let's go with passion, for example. That was on the feminine side. So why are we calling it feminine? I assume because more of a larger percentage of females tend to have this particular trait, whatever it may be, whereby we're going to call it a feminine trait. Whereas maybe more males are controlling, right? So statistically, more males are controlling, so we're going to call controlling a masculine trait. So I sort of get that, and yet also, who says passion is masculine or feminine? Can't passion just be passion? Because I'm passionate. Does that mean I'm a little feminine? Like, well, I was like, that was my pushback. Who says passion is either masculine or feminine? Can it just be passion?
For sure. I could think it can just be passion, but on the discussion on feminine, masculine, if we're going to be like defining things that are more feminine, and again, don't go gender, because for instance, Patrick and I have recently realized one of the reasons we've had a lot of polarity in our for forever, we've always had polarity, was I lived most of my life, probably majority in my masculine, and he lived a lot of his life in his feminine, and he was very passionate. So yes, a male can have passion. That's just them tapping into the feminine essence that they have the ability to tap into.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them feminine. Right. It doesn't make them, again, like, because of the culture that we're in, and especially with some of the phobics that we have around some of that, gender neutral stuff, it's like, oh my word, if I want to identify as a woman, then I can't have any masculine traits. Or if I'm a man, I think it goes probably a little more like, if I want to be a man and I want to identify as a male, then I can't have any feminine traits. No, you have feminine traits about you. You probably live more out of your masculine energy for the majority of your life, but you absolutely, and in a healthy way, would tap into these feminine traits, like passion. And honestly, Patrick was better at some of those feminine traits than I was, because he had tapped into that in a way. And so for us, we're both kind of trying to tap into the opposite, and it's like this uncomfortable dance sometimes. It's like, he's learning how to lean into his masculine energy more, and I'm learning to lean into my feminine energy more.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's and it's, again, I'm probably butchering it totally, and I've a lot to learn on it, and I'm excited about it. But it's been helpful.
Yeah. So another way to think about it is femininity, which I understand you're saying it's not gender related, but also it's called feminine, which has to stem from female. You know what I mean? And it's called masculine, which has to stem from male. So I understand it's not saying males are controlling and women never are, or whatever. It's not gender.
But a male may be more familiar with some of those traits.
That's right.
Or may be able to tap into them more than what a female.
So another way, maybe a more accurate way is, and I understand this doesn't work with like all infographics, but like you have feminine here, and instead of just putting passion, another way to think about it, or maybe a more accurate way to think about it, would be tends to be more passionate more of the time.
Right.
Right. And then it doesn't mean,
or maybe able to tap into passion to get things done in a way that a male would use control to get things done.
Right. Yes.
Or structure to get things done, or order to get things done. And a woman uses her passion to get things done, and taps into that to accomplish something. A male may tap into structure and order to accomplish something.
Makes sense. I heard something a few years ago that kind of stuck with me, which is if you kind of consider a center point and then sort of a line going out each side, and let's just say to the right you have feminine traits, and to the left you have masculine traits. And when you think about think about you, for example, where you would fall on the feminine side, with your traits, if you could kind of scale it like that, like the most feminine woman you've ever seen or the most masculine woman you've ever seen, like everyone falls on that scale somewhere. And the idea was, I sort of think this came from Tim Ferriss, but it was years ago and now I kind of forget. although the more I think about it, the more I'm pretty sure it did come from Tim Ferriss, which is the point that relationships generally work best when you are equidistant from the center.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember him talking about that as well.
Yeah. So a woman who is like the most feminine woman might pair best with a man who's like the most masculine man. And I feel like you see this sometimes, maybe particularly in the South. Like I've seen a few couples where like the lady is so preppy and so, which I guess the more I talk, the more I'm going to like, people are going to disagree with me because as I start to describe what I think of as feminine might not actually be, but like, you're like, wow, how does someone like that put together and that preppy and that classy, like be with that hunter dude? But it sort of seems to work. But then if you have like, so anyhow, the point was relationships kind of work the best when you're kind of equidistant from center, wherever you are on the scale. There's no right and wrong place on the scale, but wherever you happen to be, the person probably that you like being around in a relationship is relatively speaking the same distance from center on the other side.
And that would be a very fascinating kind of survey study to take because I mean, just thinking about it, you're right. It would seem that way. And like, for instance, going back to CrossFit, that's me super tapping into my masculine. Like that's not a very feminine workout at all. Yoga would be much more feminine.
That makes sense.
Much more fluid, much more, you think of like moving the hips and it's just much more fluid. But it works for me.
Yeah.
Like that is where I get to tap into that and I get to experience that and it works for me. It is rigid, it's ordered, it's structured, it's very, it's just very masculine.
What are you learning from this masculine, feminine discussion that is affecting your everyday, if anything?
It's definitely affecting the way Patrick and I relate to each other, like the way that I can bring almost anything, like talk about or think about. Actually, it does affect the way that I think as well. I allow myself more freedom to be chaotic in my thoughts and not feel shame around that. Like more, not have to have it all figured out. I can be more curious and also more open with my desires. Like I really feel like doing this right now. And I really feel, and again, that doesn't mean that I just let it go unbridled and I get to do everything I feel, but it lets me articulate that more. Like it's okay. Like I'm tapping into my feminine and it gives him the opportunity then to stand up and go, well, and he doesn't use this terminology, but pretty much like as the masculine, bringing order into some of that chaos, this is what I would see serve you best.
Yeah.
But that was something that was terrifying for me because I had really a lot of the examples that I'd seen in the women were like women that just put their heads down and just got shit done. Like, and so it was like, well, what if I don't, like, what if I feel like doing this or this? And that's not doing laundry Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Right. Or like, and again, like it's not wrong to do that. That's great. That's order. But, and I may have to pendulum swing a little bit to come back to the center. And I'm okay with that. But in my everyday life, it does give me the freedom to go, just tap in. Like I wake up this morning and, well, okay, like let yourself be the chaotic feminine, not female, but feminine. Just let yourself be that and articulate it and then maybe sort from there and see what it is that would serve you well.
Yes.
And then in parenting, it's been fascinating because even in that, like I would have typically been nervous about parenting more out of my feminine. I would have felt like it was like there's not enough time. I'd have to get it figured out. I have to do things, I can't say I don't know, or I can't say change my mind, or I have to be more structured and ordered. And so in some of that, it's allowing the children even we're just kind of chaotic together. And chaotic is not the best way to explain it because that just seems like, well, the house would be upside down in 2 days. It's not, it's still like
free-spirited.
Free-spirited. Yep. Or go with the flow, or not as like intense and stressed, or it's how it's playing out in my life. I feel like more.
Interesting. What would you say then to modesty? Because I know you still believe in modesty. So whereas we're not saying you have to wear sandbags and everything and like cloak yourself entirely. And if you don't, you're immodest and then you're going to cause immoral thoughts or behavior. So how do you think about modesty?
Well, I have tried to take apart the responsibility that we've put on women for what somebody else thinks about them. I have tried to kind of deconstruct that because I feel like that it really, I mean, we've made it such a big issue that I feel like men kind of give themselves liberty to think what they want if they judge somebody in dressing less than modest, whatever they feel like is modest, because we've made it such a big deal. I feel like men have kind of become weak in that area in some ways. But so I've tried to kind of deconstruct from that, where it's like, I'm not going to think about what I'm wearing as responsible for other people's thoughts.
Okay.
And that can sound like a slippery slope. I understand that. And I'm being like, that's a vulnerable thing to say. But it does allow you then to go, why is it that I'm wearing what I'm wearing? I'm going to stop thinking about that I'm wearing it to try to protect people from me or try to keep somebody from sinning. Okay, so that's that. Why is it that I wear what I wear? And what is it that I'm bringing or presenting? Because what I wear is telling you a lot about what I care about. And that's really what it should be about, right? That's what I should be bringing. And there may be days that somebody looks and goes, whoa, she's really like in a place today based on what she's wearing. That's fine. But I think it's time that we stop saying that what a woman wears. Because again, as Linda, back to the book Pure, Linda K. Klein, she said she soon realized as a teenager when we had fundraiser car washes, right? It was totally okay for the guys after a half hour to be stripping off their shirts and their chests out, sprayed down, all wet. And, you know, and the women, if you thought things, what wasn't, that was fine. But as soon as somebody sprayed you and you had a t-shirt on and things were exposed, you felt shame and had to go change. There's a problem there.
Yeah, there is a problem.
There's a problem there. And again, we've been conditioned to think that, so that men now kind of feel like, well, I can't help myself. And so if that happens, like it's on her. No, it's not on her. We have to like take that apart. So like with my girls, it's, again, we're kind of fleshing this out right now. I mean, I've got Bridget's preteen, but she could be a teenager. She's almost as tall as I am. And she's going through, you know, puberty and all of those changes. And Portia's almost 18. And so we talk about it. And I think we are probably we have less rules around clothing, and just allow them to show us by what they're choosing to wear, what's going on.
Yep.
And then go from there.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good way of looking at it, because you're getting to the heart of the matter. You know, even with you focusing less on how you're going to dress based on what other people are going to think, and more on why you want to wear this to begin with.
Right.
And if you find yourself, or I find myself, oh, I want to wear this because I want this kind of attention. I want this sort of an interaction. I want this. And those are not healthy attentions or interactions. Well, then don't dress like that for those reasons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or maybe for validation. Maybe it's
right,
like you're putting it on,
exactly.
but it gives you a better picture of that than it does if you're just going like, I have to wear this because of this, because I've been told this about it.
Yep.
And I don't know personally what the line is on modesty, honestly. Like, what is modest? But I definitely don't think modest is hottest. Like, I think I think that term is just like it. Yeah. Again, it's like it was a way to kind of judge people, because it was like, that's, I mean, for my...
Oh, you mean modest is hottest? Like, yeah,
it was a way of going like, okay,
yeah,
so...
like not looking culturally current is somehow the hottest you can dress.
Right, like, well, you could actually use that and tagline it on anything, but it was like a thing that you would say. But honestly, like Patrick's grandma would say something as immodest very differently than I would. So again, it's not,
exactly.
It's very hard to define.
And you can travel into different states, and people are going to have different opinions on modesty. And then when you start traveling into different countries,
religions, different cultures,
exactly. Then it gets really, really hard to really all agree on what's modest and what's immodest. Right. So, I mean, but that's the gospel, right? I mean, that's the scripture. It always cuts to the heart of the matter. Yeah. You know, you guys had a law that it was wrong to kill people. Well, I'm telling you it's wrong to think about killing them.
Right.
I mean, you know how much heart work you got to do now?
Yeah.
You know, you guys said it was wrong to like fornicate, but I'm saying it's wrong to think about that. Right. I mean, that really just slices to the heart of the matter. Yeah. And that is why we need Christ, because we can't all like... We can like white knuckle it a lot with our actions, but you can't white knuckle it with your heart and your mind. Yeah. Like that's where you need the cleansing power of the blood of Christ.
We don't know what the hell we're up to most of the time. Like I myself don't know. And so we do need Christ. We need that Spirit to like be that guide for us.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot more grace in that way, because if that is how I live and I rub shoulders with somebody who feels differently, am I going to trust God in them?
Right.
And allow that he is doing his work.
Yes.
No matter where they're at on the journey, no matter if they believe it's okay, back to the modesty issue, whether they believe it's okay to walk around downtown Franklin in a skimpy bikini, or if they believe that it's their calling to be completely covered up in a burqa and like, but to go, all right, God has them on a journey. Mm-hmm. I'm going to trust God in them.
Yeah.
He's speaking to me. I'm presenting and showing up the way I know best.
Yes. We make bad Holy Spirits.
Yeah,
we all
really
make
do.
Bad Holy Spirits. Well, this was wonderful, MJ. This could go on longer, although our man Andrew here got married Saturday a week ago, and it's 6:20, and
it's already
he probably
6:20?
Wants to go. Yeah, I think it is, unless that clock's wrong.
No, you're right.
But anything else you want to touch on?
No, I have had fun. This was actually not anything that I would have had to dread at all. So thank you for having me.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate your time. And we love you and Patrick. Thanks for being our friends. And
it's time to catch up again.
Look forward to having you on again soon.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thanks, MJ.
Yeah.